lots of rumors and speculation surrounding Malakai Black. Over the past several days, word was making the rounds that he had asked for his release. That was denied. Some reports claimed he had asked for his release citing mental health issues. Others were reporting that he could be getting some time off. Others have reported that everything between him and AEW has now been smoothed over and we're all good to go. Don't really know what's going on, but he did take the pin in the Trios tournament. And here in this match, I think a lot of fans were thinking about that. So Malakai Black and Sting, the match was okay. Miro was doing his thing in there. I love Miro. But I was starting to, at that point, set up for the stream, so I was kind of eyeballing it here. But I did finally see how they did the face-off between Malakai Black and Sting, which they have been teasing a little bit on TV. They come face-to-face in the ring, and Sting spits mist in Malakai Black's face. He goes down, and Darby Allin then wraps him up in whatever the name of that pinning combination is that he uses, and pins Malakai Black for the win. And to me, what happened between Sting and Malakai didn't feel like a progression in their story. That felt like Sting spitting him in the face and Darby pinning him. Like their issue doesn't even need to continue at this point. And it got a lot of people talking that maybe he is on his way out of the company. Maybe he just said, I don't want to be here. And he has cited a relationship issues as well, or reasons, maybe not issues, but reasons, because we know that he is married to Zelina Vega. And we all expected at one point Zelina to come in. It was kind of like a botch on their part, if I remember, because when Malakai was let go, WWE fucked up by not converting his 30-day NXT notice into a 90-day main roster one, and it allowed him to sign with AEW right away. And then Zelina Vega had signed back with WWE during this as well, and I think the thought was that she was either going to join Malakai in AEW, or maybe Malakai and her would stick back in WWE, and somehow something overlapped there, and they found themselves working for different companies. And I wonder for anybody who's in a relationship with these two companies, if you're married and one person works in AEW and the other one works in WWE, that has to be hard. That absolutely has to be hard. But you absolutely also have to know that going in when you sign these things. Moxley and Renee Paquette were doing the same thing for a short time there when Renee was still in WWE. Britt Baker and Adam Cole, even though I don't believe that they're married, but there are a lot of relationships that cross over. Rhea Ripley and Buddy Matthews. Who else dates in the two companies? Andrade and Charlotte, who are married. That's another one. And this is kind of that weird area here. WWE goes for the same, has gone through the same thing where guys like Ali or Roderick Strong or maybe somebody else asks for the release and they're denied. And a lot of the fans are pissed because why wouldn't you release these guys? You're not using them. They've spent the last 2.5 years in catering. They can't eat any more steak. So why would you keep them around just to be assholes? And so a lot of fans, of course, easily conflate things. So as soon as the Malakai Black rumors were happening, they immediately think it's the exact same thing as Ali or Roderick Strong. No, it's not, because in some situations in WWE, and in a lot of situations in WWE, the people asking for the release are people not being featured, that the fans barely even know exist, not by any fault of their own. They're great pieces of talent that just simply aren't being used. Brody Lee, famously, when he was still Luke Harper in WWE, wanted his release, and they jerked him the fuck around for months before, and before finally just cutting him loose like they should have done all along. It wouldn't have mattered to them in any way. They were simply keeping him around just to be dicks. Malakai Black, however, is on TV every week for the most part. He does have a faction. He is featured. I don't think he's currently being featured in AEW necessarily any worse than he was being featured in WWE. Seems like he has pretty good hands-on involvement with his character and presentation and his look and his gear and how he does things. But maybe with Triple H taking over, he sees an opportunity now. Well, if I could have been used properly over there, I wouldn't have left, or I wouldn't have even signed here. But, when they let him go, he took a great contract, apparently signed a 5-year deal. So maybe now he's like, well, I feel like I wouldn't have to worry creatively so much now being there. Plus, I would be with my wife. I think I would be happier if I was there. I have to hope if I go to my boss and ask for my release that he will, do the right thing and give me what I want, or not, hold me against my will if I don't really want to be here. And all that matters in this situation is that Malakai Black is happy and healthy and everything's fine with his mental health. So anything that I'm about to say here, don't confuse this with me having any issue with Malakai Black at all. But you have to wonder, in situations in the future when you have wrestling companies or anywhere right now and momentum shifts, like we just saw, for the past couple of years, WWE has been making us all barf, and AEW has been doing a tremendous job. For wrestling fans who need that alternative, need something other than Vince, and just need something more than that repetitive, redundant, overly produced shit that we're fed every Monday and every Friday. Give us something more, please. Please give us something more. So they did. AEW gave us that, and it's been great. But now, WWE, Vince McMahon scandal, he goes away. Triple H takes control. Triple H had a great track record from NXT, and now it looks like the momentum might be shifting in their direction to where all of a sudden they are the most attractive place to work, because this is all coinciding with all the turmoil and drama news going on in AEW. So when you combine Triple H now being in charge with apparently the backstage environment in AEW being like whatever high school the Mean Girls went to, I think that it could be more attractive to go there. And if you're somebody like Malakai Black, who maybe already is struggling with some mental health stuff, he misses his wife, or he's not getting enough time at home, that adds and compounds it. And I wouldn't blame him or anybody else that wanted to get out of that situation, just like I wouldn't blame anybody who wanted to get out of that situation in WWE, because I think there was a very bad, toxic environment in their locker room in one time in recent history as well, especially when you combine that with talent being frustrated about how they're being used. Now you're hearing that stuff in AEW. So my point is, when the momentum shifts like this, and it could shift again, there will be a honeymoon phase with Triple H that will, trust me, mark my words, end. That's the way wrestling fans work. So the honeymoon will end with Triple H. AEW could redeem themselves in another year or so, and then they are now, kind of in the driver's seat a little bit better, and they've cleaned up their act, just like WWE's cleaned up theirs. So my question is that, since now we finally reached a point in society, as we should, where we take mental health seriously, and that's not something that should be blown off or brushed off at all, and it's extremely important for every single person alive to have good mental health, and I think we're most aware and conscious of that now more than we have ever been. So do you think people, and I'm not saying Malakai is doing this, so please, goddamn, don't take it the wrong way, but do you think there are or could be people out there that would use that to their advantage if they wanted to get out of one contract and say, I kind of want to go over there? If I just cite mental health, they're going to look like assholes for not letting me go. Or they could call your bluff. Oh, you have mental health issues? I will pay for any therapy you want. Well, shit, I don't want to go to therapy. I just want out of my contract so I can go to WWE. Or maybe vice versa, or they go to Triple H and tell them the same thing. I just want out of my contract so I can go to AEW. Are there people that might try to manipulate that? Saying I've been struggling with depression and, or whatever, or maybe my therapist suggested that, I leave wrestling, or can I get a release or something like that. I think that in today's day and age, you would look like a pretty big asshole if somebody's coming to you and saying, look, my mental health is in really bad shape. I think I want to leave, the business, and can you please give me my release? I want to continue working. My wife works, of course, as you know, for WWE, and I really miss her, and it's straining our marriage. Can you let me go? And at that point, it's just a matter of what kind of person Tony Khan wants to be, just like what kind of person Vince McMahon wants to be. Tony Khan's got to think about his business. Well, Malakai, I've invested a lot in you, and I've paid you a lot, and I'm just going to let you unconditionally go. Is this going to set a precedent for everybody else who's now, might want to come to me? You got to do the right thing. You got to do the right thing for Malakai. You also got to do the right thing for yourself. So it just depends. Malakai Black could have also been one of the people that WWE quote unquote tampered with. He has that connection with WWE because his wife is there. So maybe they used her as a middleman to talk to Malakai Black, because they can't stop you from doing that. How can they police that? What if somebody in WWE management, just said, hey, when you go home, mention to your husbands, if he can figure out a way out of that contract, we'd love to have him back. Who's to stop him from doing that? How can you even... I mean, Zelina would have to rat out her own fucking husband if it was going to get to that point. She would have to tell him, or I'm sorry, he would have to rat out his wife if she told him that. And then he was like, oh my God, WWE's tampering with me. And then he goes right to work the next day. You know what my wife told me? So I don't know. I don't know what the hell, but maybe, Malakai is one of those guys that they, were looking to lure back. But if he's having trouble or any sort of mental struggles at all, or relationship struggles, the only thing we want for him is the best, because he is one of my favorite pieces of talent in wrestling, regardless of what company he's in. I believe he should be a world title contender. I feel bad for him that it hasn't worked out yet. He had success in NXT, but once you get moved up to the main roster when Vince McMahon is in charge, it doesn't matter what the fuck you do in NXT. So he left. Now he's locked into that 5-year deal in AEW, and maybe he's having second thoughts, or he wants to change and he wishes he could. And it sucks that once you put your pen down on a piece of paper, you're a prisoner for 5 years, but that's business, and that's what every wrestler has to do. So it just depends on what the situation is. Every single situation and every single wrestler, regardless of what company they're in, if they ask for a release, everybody's going to have a different set of circumstances. No set of circumstances are going to be the same. That's why everybody on Twitter is immediately it's Ali and Roderick Strong is the exact same thing as Malakai Black. All the fans that were sticking up for Ali, they better have that same energy with Malakai Black and letting him go too. It just depends on the situation. All I want was what's best for Malakai Black. I don't really care about where you lie in the tribal war. Just whatever's best for him, whatever we can do to get him in a good place mentally. I think that's the most important thing here, and that's going to be between him and his family and Tony Khan. And we will just see where he lands. But based on the last couple of jobs he has done, getting pinned here in this match on the pay-per-view, he might be on his way out. Very well could be.